Did you know the more time you spend with your partner on a boat, the more likely you are to go insane? Indeed, recent unscientific studies say the more time you spend with your partner in a confined space, the more likely you are to drown them. I'm here on Polar Seal with Sophie from Ryan and Sophie Sailing. Sophie, can you tell me how many times you've almost drowned Ryan?
Well, I can't tell you that. Can you just stop filming for a minute? I can't like incriminate myself like that.
We now have Ryan on the line, who has left the boat for a business trip. Ryan, can you tell me the real reason you left the boat?
Well, what do you think? She kicked me out again.
We wish them luck. For the Sailing YouTuber Network, this is Emily Cruz. Back to you, Sophie.
No, but seriously, I asked you to say something nice. And it's totally not true. I totally helped you unclog the shit tank. Oh, thank you, Emily. If you've ever watched sailing videos here on YouTube, which I assume you have because you clearly clicked on this video, and you've never traveled while living on a sailboat before, you may question the need for a video called Maintaining Your Sanity and a Healthy Relationship on Board. For all others, well, hi, I see you, and let's talk about it. If you're new here, hi, my name is Sophie, and for the last 6 years, my partner Ryan and I have been roaming the waters of the world on board our 40-foot sailboat Polar Seal, totaling nearly 30,000 nautical miles, a couple of continents, and a few seas. And I love it, okay? I'm here talking about it today because I feel passionate about what I do and grateful for our ability to do it. Now, obviously, if at any point Ryan and I stopped loving it, we would have sold the boat. Now that we've established that, there are things or two that I learned in that time that I would like to share with you. One of those things that I've learned over my years of both sailing the world and making films about it is that while it's really fun to pick up the camera when everything goes well, it's not as easy to do that when you feel like absolute garbage or shit gets real rough. And when you do, because on occasion I do, I fed the fish all of the food that I had in my tummy. You're guaranteed to have someone like Jeffrey Grebe 3328 or Andy Adams 1222 or other random dudes with stellar creativity when it comes to picking a username come into your comment section to tell you just how complaining you are. The point is, there are not a lot of incentives for YouTubers to give it to you square and tell you, yes, sailing the world as a lifestyle is the best thing ever, but it also comes at a big, big cost. And what that cost is, or what it looks like, well, it's gonna be different for everybody. So before Joe Sampson's 8666 or Beach Mom Sailing comes back into my comment section to tell me that I should have more fun and smile more, here is my public service announcement. Because you see, Joe, the people who will actually do what we do, the ones who will actually leave the dock and stop watching sailing on YouTube, they want to hear what's hard. They want to know why it's hard and what you can do to make it a bit easier so that they are prepared. Oh, but wait. What is this?
Hey, Sugar Bear!
Tact is the ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. Well, Joe, if you're still with us, I hope you look forward to that one because I certainly do. So why should we talk about maintaining our sanity at all, right? A couple of weeks ago, I was at the Annapolis Boat Show, and for the second year in a row, I was asked by Bihan Gifford from Sailing Totem and Nika Waters, both undeniably prominent figures in the cruising education space, to come and participate to their seminar, She's a Cruiser. She's a Cruiser is part of Cruisers University, which happens every year before the boat show. And it is a seminar made for aspiring cruising women for them to gain knowledge, confidence, ask questions, etc. Last year, I suggested the topic of sanity and relationships on board, and I was asked to come back to do it again this year because, as it turns out, well, a lot of people want to ask questions about what it's like to move on a boat full-time with your partner. This time, I came prepared with the best PowerPoint slides and pie charts that would make my former consultant self proud. But sadly, in that context, I am not allowed to record my participation. So I thought that instead of making a video about the boat show, I would bring you one about my Cruisers University topic instead. Now, there are plenty of videos that you can watch about the boat show. Others will have done it better than I ever could. And I know for a fact that this is the stuff that I wanted to hear when almost 7 years ago, innocent and naive as we were, Ryan and I left the dock to embark on our world sailing adventure. See, you've noticed my PowerPoint has started. Okay, so before we go any further into that topic, I usually start by saying that when it comes to maintaining your sanity and a healthy relationship on board with your partner, I'm really not an expert, okay? Really what it is that no one else talks about it, so haha, you're stuck with me. And I mean, it's been 6 years that Ryan and I are going, and he is still alive, so, you know, there is that. So you never really think about life on land as a cost versus reward type situation, although I think we all should. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna think about it for a minute. So life on land comes with a cost, okay? It's financial, like your rent, your mortgage, your student loan, your car payment, your food, Netflix, your Patreon subscription to the Ryan and Sophie Sailing channel. But it has other costs as well, right? Like it has a mental and an emotional cost. You get a job that you may like more or less, and a boss that really pisses you off on occasion. You only get a couple of weeks of vacation per year that almost leave you more tired than normal because you felt that you really needed to make the most out of your time off work. That was me. So let's say that on a scale from 0 to 10, life on land comes at a cost of 4. Now, hopefully, your land life comes with greater rewards, such as great relationships with your family and friends, quality time spent together, a great house that you enjoy living in, hobbies, sports, etc. And really what I'd like for you to feel is that on a scale from 0 to 10, your land life gives you at least a reward of 7, solid 7. That's probably where I was when back in 2017, Ryan and I were in the final stages of preparing for our great escape. Now, 6 years later, let me give you a very unscientific way of how we look at our lives currently. That's right. On a scale from 0 to 10, we estimate that our lives have a cost of approximately 22, with a reward of 25. Is that reward worth it? Oh my God. I mean, you've watched sailing YouTube before, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. But that few points of difference between the cost and the reward, that's where your sanity is. And that's the safety zone. That's the one you want to protect. A couple of weeks ago at the Annapolis Boat Show, I met my sister from another mother, Emily Cruz, from the up-and-coming Adventure Cruise YouTube channel. Now, Emily used to be a news anchor, and Emily and Cole were avid watchers of sailing YouTube before they eventually purchased their catamaran and left the dock last year for their first season of cruising. And by the time we were having lunch together, they had been sailing for about a year. We had that conversation because after 6 years, I told you that Ryan and I decided that this was going to be our last season on Pour Le Steel, that we need another boat. We realized why. We've learned some lessons. And at the end of our conversation, you told me that our conversation felt relieving to you, and I would like for you to share with our dear viewers on the YouTube Sailing Network.
Yes. So oftentimes, you know, this lifestyle can be a little bit lonely because you're going to all these different places, and connecting with you just really made me feel better because I have been feeling burnout over the last little bit, you know, doing all the things, managing a boat, moving a boat. And I think it's something that maybe people don't talk about enough, that there is travel fatigue, like traveling full time. Yes, it can be really sexy and high risk, high reward when you get to these amazing destinations. But I think the thing that's not talked about enough is the fatigue that comes with it, and managing a boat, and when things break, because it doesn't matter how new or how old or how in between your boat is, like if you're living on the water, something's gonna break. So just talking to you about it just made me feel a lot better and not feel so guilty about being burnt out. So
high five.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I think that we can both feel very privileged for the experience that we get to live, at the same time that you feel that they're taking a lot of energy from you, and so you need to manage it in some way. And I feel like sometimes what you watch on YouTube is escapism, and saying that it's tiring is not very sexy. Nobody wants to hear about your problem when you're seemingly living the dream life, right?
Right, of course.
But I also think that a lot of people who watch this, who watch our channels, who watch your channel, do it because they want to do what we do.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's doing the community a disservice than only presenting the escapist part. It's like YouTube is really good at showing you the reward.
Yes.
But a lot of times it's not really good at showing you the high cost associated.
And what it takes to get there, yeah.
Exactly. And so here comes 5 seconds of Ryan unclogging our shit tank this season.
Oh, get out, it's coming, oh my God.
Now, let's have a closer look at that very unscientific study, shall we? This pie chart, for example, clearly shows that for most people living on land, the time spent with their partner is minimal. You wake up in the morning and then maybe you spend a few moments with them over coffee, but then you go to work and, you hang out with your colleagues and boss, and maybe you spend a bit of time with your partner in the evening, right? But for the most part, you only really get to hang out with them on weekends or on holidays. And I never really thought about the quantity of time that I used to spend with Ryan when we lived on land in Sweden, but I can tell you that on the boat, it definitely looks like this. And this little sliver of alone time, it's intentional, right? It's a sliver that I carve for myself. Because if not, Ryan is always in sight. It's lucky that it's a sight that I like most of the time. Equally on land, you have a lot of different people in your life who fulfill for you a bunch of different roles, right? Your spouse is your romantic partner, but your sounding board is really your colleague at work. And if you're ever in need of venting, you go to brunch with the girls, or you go watch football with the boys. If you hurt yourself, you go to the doctor, you go to the nurse. If your toilet leaks, you call the plumber. And when you lose grasp of your life and really struggle to get your shit together, that's when you go to a therapist. Now, I really wanted to make a neat pie chart to represent what the sailing life is from the people you need in your life versus what's a volleyball point of view. But really, well, that's what it looks like for me. Let's just say that no one is ever equipped to be all this at once and jump from one role to the next gracefully, right, as your partner needs you for something that they do not necessarily know how to express in the moment. Yeah, Ryan and I never argue. Life is good. No one needs this video. We all have good days and bad days. There are days that I tell myself and Ryan, I really want to be doing this forever. And then there are the days that... So between 2018 and 2023, when this video is being recorded, this is how we've evolved. And when you're at the very bottom, right there, down in the bilge, it's called a sail the boat day. It doesn't mean that you are actually going to sail the boat, because remember, you are here, right? It just means that you are normal. Yep, congratulations. Just as true as you will one day ground your boat like everyone else. You too will experience a sail the boat day, during which you may go as far as writing the ad for your boat before you remember that, yeah, you've always wanted to go check out the Bahamas. So, what do you do about it? Well, I can't tell you what you should do or how things will pan out for you, but I can talk about a few things that Ryan and I have done over the years that have helped to prevent, let's say, man overboard incidents. Okay, I really wish that I could have finished this video on board Polyseal, but the day that I started filming it, I literally had a plane to catch, so hey, welcome to Paris! This is actually the perfect place for me to illustrate my first point. And back when I was having lunch with my friend Emily, and we were comparing our experiences of cruising at year 1 and year 6, I asked her what she wished somebody had told her before she left the dock with Cole. And she told me this.
So cruising full time, I wish someone would have told me the importance of taking breaks. 365 days on a sailboat is not a good idea. Like, it may seem like a good idea when you're on your couch watching YouTube, but we're talking about the days you're sick. I mean, we just got sick after the Annapolis Boat Show and we're stuck on the boat for a week. And not only are we trying to not be sick, but we're trying to manage water supply and energy consumption and charging our batteries, all of those things. So I wish someone would have told me the importance of taking breaks. And actually people did talk about it and we're like, wow, why do people only do like 6 months on, 6 months off? But now we understand, like, it is important to take breaks because we absolutely love the boat. We love being on the boat, but just taking time for ourselves to where we're not having to be on. And unless you've lived on a boat, like, you never understand what that means. Like, we could be in an anchorage and it could be calm, but we're on when a wind gust comes through in the middle of the night, or you hear this sound that you're not used to hearing. It's not like you're just gonna roll back over and go to sleep. Like, you're gonna get up and check on that. And so always being on and always being on the boat 12 months a year, I think, is a little much.
Living and traveling from a sailboat is incredibly tiring, and especially if you are completely new at it, or you have ambitious sailing goals, or, like is our case, you are combining sailing the world with remote work. So really here, my number one advice that I would give somebody who plans on embarking on a sailing adventure would be a plan to take breaks, both in terms of your schedule, but also in terms of budget and financial planning. And this is really something that I wish somebody had told us about before Ryan and I left the dock, because we probably would have made different decisions. Let me explain. You know that idea that was incredibly popular in the mid-2010s among millennials, aka me, that you only live once, sell everything you have, buy plane tickets, travel the world. Well, I'm here to tell you don't do that. Or at least don't sell the house. Or if you need to do that, downsize. But if you own your house, at least keep a foot in the real estate market. For two reasons. First, a boat is a depreciating asset. We have a sign in our bathroom that says that a boat is a hole in the water surrounded by fiberglass into which you throw money. And it's accurate. Unless you've bought your boat before the pandemic, in which case that does not apply. But then again, between the appreciation of the value of my boat and going through 3 years of pandemic, I would have gladly skipped the pandemic. I digress. And two, because when you're gonna want to take the break, and trust me, that will happen, it's so much sweeter to take that break at home. When Ryan and I embarked on our sailing journey, I sold my apartment in Stockholm, which, looking back, I regret. And we rented Ryan's apartment long term, meaning that anytime that we want to take a break on land, we have to rely on all kind of short-term rentals, or Ryan's parents' basement, or, as is my case right now, my brother's apartment. And while I am so lucky and privileged that I can both rent my brother's apartment in Paris and have a good enough relationship with my in-laws that I can live at their place for a month at a time, after 6 years, we are starting to feel the need to sleep in a bed that we have chosen when we are not sailing. Do with that what you will. So just as important as it is for Ryan and I to take breaks on land, we also take breaks from each other because
Ryan and I never argue. Life is good. No one needs this video.
living 24/7, 365 days a year with a person is it's pretty intense. But also because I find it challenging when I spend all of my time with Ryan to dedicate time to activities that I enjoy doing without him. And I promise you, he feels the same way as well. So once or twice a year, I come back to France and I reconnect with my culture of origin and my roots and my family and the food and the wine and everything. And while I love it when Ryan tags along, as he did last week, I also enjoy being here on my own. Now, it's great to have a relationship that can withstand life together 24/7, but it's equally awesome to have one in which you can have your own friends and your own hobbies, which is actually pretty difficult to achieve when you live and travel full-time from a floating bathtub. Taking breaks from the boat and from each other allows us to get grounded, take a break, ask ourselves if we still like what we do, if this lifestyle is still the right choice for us. And for the last 6 years, it's been that way. As long as we enjoy it and as long as we can afford it, we'll continue doing what we do. Okay, unrelated, but oh so important and underrated and not talked about on YouTube nearly enough as it should. And I know that this will come as a shock to a lot of people, but I will say it anyways. I will sacrifice my subscribers and like count over that one, but I'm willing to die on that hill. Sailing as a lifestyle is not camping, okay? And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love camping. For a week, maybe two, but all year round, no thank you. Hard pass. There was a time when sailboats were not necessarily built with full-time onboard living in mind, and galleys were pretty cramped, bathrooms maybe didn't have a shower or hot water, but times and technologies have changed, and that's a good thing. Technology and design have evolved in a way that allow most of us on all kind of budgets to experience the joys of long-distance sailing while still maintaining some of the comforts of life on land. So why shouldn't you enjoy that? Back in 2016, when we bought Polar Seal, she was equipped at a very basic level, but over the years we have made a bunch of upgrades that made life on board just so much more comfortable and sustainable for us. You know, you never really appreciate the luxury of flushing at the press of a button before you are deprived of it for several years. And by all means, if camping as a lifestyle is your thing and this is really what you want to experience to feel closer to nature, power to you. But I can tell you that even the saltiest of sailors that have been doing it for many years always look at ways to make their boats a little more comfortable to make their adventures more sustainable for them.
That's right, Sophie. Even hardened solo sailors in very small boats do everything they can to make things as comfortable as possible. Now, people's idea of comfort varies greatly, and what I find as comfortable may be horrific to most people, but there are certain things that I've done to my small sailboat that makes life much easier when things are hard. My name's James, and I'm circumnavigating the globe on a 1965 Alberg 30, so a 30-foot, 9-meter sloop, and there's not a lot of room for bells and whistles on a boat this small. Back when I was outfitting the boat in Los Angeles, I was married at the time, and I thought there were going to be 2 of us cruising. And there's only one thing that my wife at the time asked me to do. All she asked for was, she was like, I would really like hot water. That's something I never would have installed had I been alone, but I was like, no problem. So I installed a water heater, and that has been one of the greatest things, to be able to like have hot water after a really brutal sail. It is really nice to be able to wash my hair and take a shower. A lot of times when you're a solo sailor, it's easy just to like rough it. But those are 2 of the things that I've found to be really wonderful creature comforts. It may seem funny, but when you sail as like minimal and slim down as I do, and as a lot of solo sailors do, it's small things like hot water and cold drinks that make all the difference in the world.
And on that note, maybe you are the kind of person that can live with a manual toilet for years at a time, or have no problem drinking wine out of a plastic cup. But maybe your partner is not that person, and having the flexibility to recognize that we all have different standards when it comes to comfort is very helpful when you're in a relationship in close quarters for a long time. Know what I mean? You know, Ryan was never a big believer in having real glasses and real plates on board. He thought that they would break, that it would be a hazard, etc., which I'm sure some of you relate to. But for me, to live on a boat for several years, I don't want to be drinking my wine out of a plastic cup. So we've had real porcelain and glass on board, and we're just a little more careful with it. And you know what? The worst thing that can happen is that on occasion one breaks and I replace it. And Ryan's willingness and my willingness to be flexible and adjust to the comfort level that we each want is probably another reason why we're still together and still doing this. So here's another thing. When you embark on a sailing adventure with your partner, and regardless of how many years you've spent together on land, you end up finding things about them that you didn't know were a thing. What we found out in the last 6 years is that Ryan lived his entire life with a crippling anxiety. And on land, it manifested itself as normal things. It completely flew under the radar. On the boat, however, it became very difficult to hide and translated into difficulties anytime that we would depart somewhere, and maybe slight anger issues as well. And because on land, life can be predictable, but on the boat, it really isn't, it was a lot harder to manage for him. And in all honesty, for me too.
Emotional damage.
Luckily for us, at the time that we embarked on our journey, we had already gone to therapy before. And over the years, we continue to go to therapy, both individually and as a couple. And I can say with confidence that the therapists that we've met over the years are probably the #1 reason why we didn't go completely insane and we can cruise enjoyably. This last year, Ryan was finally diagnosed with general anxiety disorder and now has a treatment for that. And his life is much better, and so is mine. Now, I am not suggesting that you find yourself a therapist before you leave. And I'm also not recommending that you go through a big online platform that heavily markets themselves on YouTube. My opinion of that is that it's completely useless, outrageously expensive, and potentially damaging. But it helps to know what your support network is before you embark on your journey and have it available when you're going to need it, because you will. But ultimately, I credit the sustainability of our sailing life to our ability to challenge ourselves, learn from our mistakes, and sometimes self-reflect. Hopefully, we do that, I think. Living and traveling from a sailboat in the last 6 years has challenged us and allowed us to grow as individuals and as a couple in a way that living a life on land and going to a 9-to-5 job would have never allowed us to do. And I think that the key to maintaining our sanity in the last 6 years was to be emotionally flexible with the experience we've had, allow ourselves to take risks, make mistakes and learn from them, and accept that as humans, well, we are not perfect. Sometimes we need to grow, we need to adjust, and we need to change, and that process is messy. But when the typical audience for a sailing YouTube channel is over 90% of men above the age of 45, well, that's not the stuff that people choose to tell you about.
I felt really guilty about feeling burnout because I reflected back to 2-3 years ago when Cole and I were just dreaming of being on the other side of the couch, right? Like watching you, watching all these people, and then here we are in this position and we're like, oh, we're burnt out. Like it almost makes me feel like I'm not grateful, and I never want to come off that way because we are so grateful for this life. But I think there's realities that people don't talk about enough, and everything just kind of compounds. So we don't ever want to get burnt out of this lifestyle for real. In year 2, we're gonna take more breaks off the boat.
So if you've watched this video up to this point, first off, congratulations, because you are way more equipped than we ever were back in 2016 when we bought our boat ourselves. And if just like us back then you have zero or a very limited experience of sailing and you want to do what we do, embark on your own sailing adventure, well, we created an online course for that. Our course, Sailing the World, is the resource that we wish we had when we got started. In the first part, we cover some core sailing knowledge, as well as where and how to learn how to sail, basics of safety and seamanship, as well as how to buy and equip a sailboat for the kind of adventures that you want to have. I will be posting my full conversation with Emily in another video, maybe on Patreon, maybe public, we'll see. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, maybe consider subscribing or joining the Polar Seal Club on Patreon. It would be great. We have so much fun out there. If there are any topics that you feel nobody tells you about on the YouTube, well, throw them in the comment section. Happy to tackle them. Have a great day.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more boat life stories and slices of reality, tune in to the Adventure Cruise channel here on the Sailing YouTube network. I mean YouTube.